Greetings, Andy here in my conservatory. It's a very, very warm sunny day. I've got all the windows open and all the doors open, so if there's a bit of background noise, apologies. So this video is the second part of my roundup of records I bought in June. You know, sort of half of them are brand new releases, a couple of sort of slightly older ones, and we've got a reissue which has just been released. So and genre mix, blimey, there's a whole mix here. I'll go through this as we go through. Let's get cracking. And first of all, the reissue, which was actually released on the 30th of May. So I picked it up sort of halfway through June, to be honest, and it is the 10th anniversary edition of Sufjan Stevens' epic. Well, epic's probably the wrong word because it was a single LP on release, but his masterpiece, Carrie and Lowell. Carrie and Lowell, here they are. This is an old family Polaroid, apparently, and his one of his sisters has written that on. Carrie was his mother and Lowell his stepfather, but it was a difficult thing. Apparently, he was the youngest of 4 kids, which he'd had by the time she was 25, and this was in Detroit. But she suffered badly with mental health issues. She was diagnosed as schizophrenic, bipolar, and I think she had addiction issues with both drugs and alcohol. And she upped sticks and left when he was 1. And effectively he grew up with his father and eventually a stepmother, and they moved more into rural Michigan, while his mother moved to Oregon and met and married Lowell. But they had a relationship. It wasn't, even though she didn't bring him up and she had all sorts of issues, they were actually quite close. And she died in 2012, and he also suffering from depression and grief, wrote this magnificent, his best album by a mile, and possibly one of the best singer-songwriter albums that I know, and released it in 2015. Interestingly, Lowell actually supported his music and helped him set up the Asthmatic Kitty label, his label that he's released. You know, even his first album. So he sort of basically, set that up for him and ran it for him for a while. I've had this album from when it was first released only as a digital download. And whilst this was expensive, because it's a sort of like a mini box set, it is magnificent, and I'm very pleased with it. It is utterly beautiful. It's heartbreaking. It's got some of the, let me read some of my notes on here. So Mojo, for example, gave it 5 stars, calling it vital, universal, profoundly human, and emphasising the enduring power of Stevens' poetic songwriter. I couldn't put it better myself because it's exactly what it is, poetic. So let me show you what we've got here. It comes inside. There's a sort of double album. There's lots of family pictures everywhere. The original album, with all the lyrics on the back, is 11 tracks basically on a single LP, and it's in violet, I think they remember calling it. And then the second LP is quite interesting on here, because these are bonus tracks effectively. And on the cover, there's an essay he's written about his songwriting process and the frame of mind he was in, which is really interesting. I'm not going to read it because it's quite long. And again, that is in violet. And basically, it's demos and outtakes. So you've got 5 demos and 2 outtakes, but they are different. For example, the last one, 4th of July. 4th of July on the main album is, I don't know how long, 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. It's a pared back, just voice and guitar. I'm not sure what the 4th of July is, whether I got a feeling that might be the day she died. But The outtake, which they call version 4, is a 14-minute orchestral, cinematic, absolutely beautiful. It is, you know, as good as the original was. This is just entirely different, and to my ear, it is better than anything else on the album, as good as all of that is. But it was too long to play on there. It's fabulous. And also on here we have, let me find it because there's a lot of stuff in here. There's a huge 40-page booklet. It's really like a family scrapbook of pictures. So, you know, having had a flick through, that's enough for me. I'm sort of interested in the album, but I don't really want to watch read somebody else's family. So, it helps to get you into it, I guess. I'll play a sample of the original 4th of July, but the outtake, I suppose it is, the one they didn't put on, is fabulous, and all of those are they're all quite different, and that you know makes it worthwhile, because obviously as a mini box set it wasn't cheap. So let's spread like a fever ahead. It was night when you died, my firefly. What could I have said to raise you from the dead? Oh, could I be the sky on the 4th of July? Well, you do enough talk, my little hawk. Why do you cry? And so the next one is to say it's chalk and cheese would be an understatement. You could even say from the sublime to the ridiculous, but it's a very good album, so it's not ridiculous. And it is an album by a band called Wyatt E, which I can't help but in my head convert to Wyatt Earp, but I can't believe it's got anything to do with that. The band hail from Belgium, and they are, well, they're described as doom metal, but it's released on the Heavy Psych Sounds label, which I've got a few records for, and they always do what it says on the tin. There's Heavy Psych Sounds, and you know I don't really know what doom metal is. It doesn't sound massively metal to me. It doesn't sound terribly doomy to me. It is the vocals are sort of drone like, but you know not sort of snarling and shouting or anything like that. And the album is called now. It's in Sanskrit or some sort of, you know, mystical Eastern language. Zamuru Ultu Kereb Zigurati, Part 1. And apparently that means music from inside the ziggurat. And it's, you know, so I've read a few reviews of this, and there was one summed it up as a mesmerizing fusion of doom metal and Mesopotamian mysticism. You know, and a very distinctive release. Well, that sort of sums it up nicely. I picked up this from watching a video by Alex at Beer and Vinyl, and it was just really, it caught my interest. So I streamed a couple of some bits of tracks and thought I like that, and it wasn't terribly expensive, so I got it, and it's there's only 5 tracks on it. It's sort of bookended by 2 longish ones, which are good, but there's a little bit more variety in the shorter middle one. So it's a sort of sandwich, a very, very nice sandwich. And the band apparently are, I mean, it's just plain weird, really. They dress in sort of like robes and have masks and things, but they're not as bonkers as Goat. It's sort of like slightly more, you know, more intentional, and it's a beautiful. It's in gold, that sort of molten gold, sort of marbly stuff. And let me pull this out. Because even I mean, it's got the track listing in an insert, but even the sort of, I'm not sure if you can see that, is in sort of like different, like, I don't know what languages there are, Middle Eastern languages, ancient ones of Sanskrit or whatever, which is really helpful. I haven't got a clue what they're singing about, but I like the sounds, and they are heavy psych sounds. So, continuing our sort of mixed journey, we now jump from heavy psych or doom metal to modern jazz. And it's the band GoGo Penguin, who hail from Manchester in England, and their new album, Necessary Fictions. It was their 7th studio album, and it's a double on plain black vinyl. And they're quite interesting, GoGo Penguin. And this is this is, I think, their best album yet. They are a 3-piece. Let me get the insert out, because it's got all the band and so on. So they're a 3-piece made up of Chris Illingworth, Nick Blacker, and John Scott. But there's no sort of there's no wind instruments in here, which is obviously unusual for a jazz band. So the trio, it's Chris Illingworth piano and synths, Nick Blacker double bass guitar and synths, and John Scott on drums. So essentially, most of it is just drums, bass, and piano or synths. But on this album, and instrumental. But on this album, they've got a sort of supporting collective called the Manchester Collective. The main two of whom is a guy called Dowdy Matsiko, who sounds Japanese, but apparently he's sort of British Ugandan, and he actually sings on one of the tracks, vocals and also supports guitar. And Raki Singh, who is a violinist, also does some back vocals on that one track, which has some singing in it, and then there's some other playing violins, violas, and cellos, which gives us sort of a little bit of orchestration to it. It's 12 tracks, 3 on each side, and it's quite beautiful. Let me have a quick look at the. It says, these are some of the comments I picked up. This is their most adventurous album yet, blending their trademark piano-driven minimalism with modern synths, broken beats, and lush string arrangement. Sums it up beautifully. It's quite expansive. It's playful. Here was the summary. It's a record that balances introspection with celebration, precision with playfulness, and that sums it up nicely. And if you like modern jazz, particularly that sort of electronic, they call it electro jazz, whatever, then it's very good. And it's just, as I say, a double on black vinyl. And now we go to yet another switch of style, and we've got some country folk, and it's by an artist called Hayden Pedigo, and the album is I'll Be Waving As You Drive Away, and there on the back is it, and a little picture of him with his guitar. And that style he's got that sort of finger picking style, described similar to John Fahey, who I don't know, but apparently had that style, and also Bert Jantz, who I do know, and yeah, I sort of get it. This apparently was written on he's working on a 20,000 acre ranch in Wyoming where he wrote this album and recorded it in a place called OJ, California. Not heard of before. My geography is usually quite good. The reason I picked up on this was a review I read in Pitchfork, which gave it 8.3 and absolutely gushed over it. And it just sounded really different and unusual for what I normally get. So I streamed a couple of tracks and thought, I like that. It is apparently, I know nothing of his earlier work, but apparently it is the third in a trilogy, which is called the Motor Trilogy. It's a short album. It's got 7 shortest tracks. It's sort of not much more than half an hour. So it's quite a short album. It's not pure, and he's obviously quite young. It sounds like he's, when I listened to this, I think it was maybe some guy in his 40s or 50s, but is he still in his 20s, I would guess. It's got, there's some synths in there, there's some lovely slide guitar on a couple of tracks, played by supporting artists. And it says, here we go, performed by Hayden Pedigo, obviously the guy himself, acoustic guitar, electric piano, Scott Hirsch, bass synthesizer, Ebo guitar, I do like a bit of Ebo, cymbals, Nathan Bieber, violin, there's piano, pedal steel. It's instrumental, but interestingly, right at the end, there's a sort of an outro track where he narrates all of the credits, and thanks people and so on, a bit like at a concert. I've never heard that on a record, particularly an instrumental one, because you get to the end and suddenly he's speaking. But it's one I've really enjoyed. I put it on. It's just really different. It's obviously got that slight Americana country feel to it, but it's not country. It's more folk than country, I would say. Really interesting. I'm resisting at the moment going down a rabbit hole and looking at his other stuff, because he's produced quite a few albums, and obviously this is the third of a trilogy. So, and it is on what is described as Silverado Brown. I don't know what that is, but it is brown. And so to our last album, which is like a number recently, is a comeback album. And it is by the band Stereolab, and their album Instant Holograms on Metal Film. And Stereolab are a band, obviously I've known of since the 90s. They formed in 1990, I think, and it was by... let me get the name, a British guy called Tim Gain and a French girl called Laetitia Sadier, and I think they're a sort of romantic couple. Whether they're married or not, I have no idea, but and they went on to obviously produce all those early Stereolab stuff in the 90s. But this is the first album for 15 years, so I think that the last one was in 2009 or 10 or around that time, and then they've been on a hiatus. I think they got together again a couple of years ago to do some live stuff, but this is a comeback album. Now, why did I go for this? Because I've never been into Stereolab. It's not that they're a band that I don't like. I've just never got into them. I've never really tried. And when this was released, I read quite a few reviews, which were pretty good, saying this is a great comeback and so on. So I sort of took a gamble on it and thought, well, I'll give it a try. And at the risk of damning with faint praise, it's okay. I don't dislike it, but neither has it really grabbed me. I probably need to just listen to it more. It's a little bit too synth poppy for me, for my usual taste. So this is an 80s synth pop. It is more 90s style, and in places it's really nice, but it just doesn't grab me all the way through. It's a full album. It's how many tracks are there? 13 tracks on 4 sides. It's okay. You know, it's quite poppy. It's quite synthy. It's not. It's quite sophisticated as well. It's not. You know, it's not simple pop. And the vocals, Letitia's vocals, are lovely. And it is, as I say, a double on clear vinyl. So. I'm going away on holiday. I'm going on holiday with my daughter, grandson and sister, which would be an interesting one. We're going to Sardinia. So while I'm away, I'll have a think about what are my 5 favourite, you know, what are the 5 new releases of 2025 so far that I like most. Now, bearing in mind, I've got about 30 plus. I got to go back and sort of think them through in my head. But when I get back in a couple of weeks, I'll do a video roundup before the end of the month on 2025 part 1. So thanks for watching. Cheers.